Video we'll be learning how to divide decimals. Okay, but before we get started, we need to remember a couple of helpful tips that we've gone over in class. Okay, so number one, you need to move the decimal to the top of the house. The top of the house, remember, is your division sign when you're doing long division. Okay, number two, we need to remember our little acronym that we've been learning. So divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, repeat. Okay, this is the steps for long division that we have been practicing in class. And then number three, in this new lesson that I'm teaching about dividing decimals, we need to remember that there are no remainders at all. It's all decimals. They're not allowed, but we need to add zeros. And I will show you how to do that in this video. Okay, so when we get a problem where we know we have to do long division, we first have to start out with looking at our divisor and seeing that there's one digit in our divisor. So we're going to look at the first digit in our dividend. Okay, so we look, we see, we ask ourselves how many times does 4 go into 7? It goes in once, so I put a 1 on top. Then I multiply. That's the next step in our helpful tips. I multiply. 1 times 4 is 4. Then I subtract. 7 minus 4 is 3. Okay, next step is to bring down. Now I have 33. Okay, now I look back at my divisor and I say, how many times does 4 go into 33? So I think about it, I remember my multiplication facts, and I'm going to go with 8. Okay, so now how many times does 8 go into 4? I say 32, or 8 times 4 is 32. I get 1 as my answer, and now I bring down my 4. Something that we have to do is that we see that we have our decimal right there. That needs to be brought up to the top of my division spot before I move on to doing this digit. So now I see how many times does 4 go into 14? That goes into it 3 times. 3 times 4 is 12. Okay, now I get 2. Okay, this is the part we get confused on. What do I do when I get here? What do I do when I get to this point, when I have a 2 there? Okay, this is where number 3 comes in. It can't be a remainder, right? It has to be, I add a 0. Okay, remember, if I add zeros to the back of my decimal, it doesn't change the value of my number. It's just a placeholder to help me get to the decimal point I need to get to. So I'm going to add a 0. I'm going to bring it down. Now I have 20. So how many times does 4 go into 20, I ask myself. 4 goes into 20 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20. And that is my answer, 18 35/100ths. Okay. Now, let's think. I'm going to pause here, and I would like you to pause and do the worksheet that was sent home with you, or some problems that are close or with division. Okay, now we're going to walk through a problem where we do it. Okay? So let's do the problem. 25.3 divided by 6. Okay. So I'm going to do the first step. So the first step is to start out with, you can bring your decimal up. So I'm going to put my decimal on top of my house, and now I'm going to begin. So I start with my first digit in my dividend, because I only have one digit in my divisor. 6 goes into 2. It can't, right? So we can put a 0 above. Okay, now we look at the next one. How many times does 6 go into 25? I'd like you to pause and figure that out here. Okay, 6 goes into 25 4 times. 4 times 6 is 24. I subtract. 25 minus 24 is 1. Okay, I would like you to pause and figure out what you need to do next. Okay, now I'm going to bring down my 3. Now I'm going to repeat. 6 goes into 13 2 times. 2 times 12, or 2 times 6 is 12. Bring down my 1. I'm in this predicament again where I have a remainder and my number stops, so that means I'm going to add a 0. Okay, bring my 0 down. How many times? Now I repeat. 6 times, or divide it, or how many times does 6 go into 10? Goes in once. I get 6. Okay, I would like you to stop and figure out what do I do next. Okay, I add another 0. I bring it down. Okay, this is gonna get tricky. Okay, so 6. How many times does 6 go into 40? 6 goes into 40 6 times. 6 times 6 is 36. And I get a 4 again. Okay, so when we get to this point, we see that the 4, we keep repeating 4s. Okay, so it's just going to keep repeating. So we're going to stop and we're going to add our little repeating sign that we learned in class before. So my answer would be this, with a repeating sign. So 4 and 216 thousandths. Okay. Okay, at this time I would like you to stop the video. Thank you for listening, and I would like you to do the assignment that is listed in your snow day video.